Close to 80 millimeters of rain today in St. Lawrence, leading to scenes like this. You can see the water running high. Valerie sent me the video. She sent me this picture as well, showing high water in the town of St. Lawrence. I've also heard tell of other areas of the Burin Peninsula experiencing some flooding this evening. We'll talk about when the rain's going to let up and a little more about your forecast after I thank tonight's sponsor, Venture Credit Union. Venture Credit Union is currently offering a 4.99% promotional rate on loans for vehicles, power sports, and more. Please see one of our branches in Glovertown, Twillingate, Gambo, or Catalina for details. Visit venturecu.ca. Through about 7:30, St. Lawrence has picked up almost 80 millimeters of rain. I suspect it's higher than that as we're now getting closer to 8:30. St. Albans, Burgeo, Port aux Basques, Winterland also seeing very significant rainfall totals. As we take a look at this, we can actually see where the heaviest totals were through 2:30 this afternoon. This is estimated rainfall amounts or precipitation amounts. And at that point, the heaviest rain was certainly from like the south coast to over the Burin Peninsula. But since then, we've seen totals on the Burin Peninsula inflated as rainfall rates at times for an hour have been over 10 millimeters per hour. In fact, 1 hour, I think St. Lawrence picked up close to 15 millimeters of rain. The rainfall warning is in effect at this hour still from Corner Brook to Port aux Basques and as far east as the southeast Avalon Peninsula, and that will remain in effect into the overnight period. Live radar imagery showing the heaviest rainfall for the time being has lifted north of the Burin Peninsula. So we are likely getting a little bit of a break right now as the heaviest rain looks like it's from, I would say, Glovertown, kind of Gambo area through Terra Nova National Park over the Avalon Peninsula, and it's all kind of moving in that direction. Now, we look back to the west and south, and we can see there's still rain ongoing right now over Nova Scotia and PEI. And notice we are still seeing the rain filling in on the radar to the south, which means there's still precipitation somewhere down in this area here. The question is, how much is there? Well, luckily, we have really good computer models these days, and we can actually look at the simulated radar imagery, and there is still a lot of moisture left to go. So even though right now we are seeing that break over the Burin Peninsula, we are going to see the rain re-intensifying here over the next few hours because we have this whole swath of rain to get through as that lifts north as we go throughout the overnight. Now, it's also kind of working its way to the east, so we're not going to remain in this south to north trend forever, but another 4 to 6 hours of significant rainfall looks quite likely. And here's the reason, at least partially. We are seeing an atmospheric river, a fetch of moisture being directed almost right at southern Newfoundland, and that comes to us from almost the tropics, not quite the Gulf of Mexico, but almost right over Cuba and the Bahamas into southern areas of Newfoundland. And when we get a pattern like this, and we have a certain storm system in place, a certain weather pattern, we can get dumped on with heavy rainfall, especially in the south, which is where that moisture kind of hits first as it rolls off the ocean. So that's exactly what we are seeing. Question, how much more is left to see by about midnight or 2 or 3 in the morning? Because at that point, most of it's done. Well, it looks like we're not quite out of the woods yet. Computer forecasting an additional 38 millimeters in St. Lawrence, 26 in Marystown, 34 down in St. Bride's, 22 in St. Mary's, 40 in Trepassey, another 40 potentially in the Harbor Breton area as well. Ronconnor East, 46 mils in the forecast for you, 43 in Terranceville. But notice as you go further north, there's rain in the forecast, but the amounts are strikingly less than areas along and near the south-facing shores. Same thing for parts of the south coast. Burgeo, Ramea, Port aux Basques, La Poile, these areas, another 30 to 40 millimeters of rain in the forecast as you go further north, once you're away from the Cape St. George, Stephenville area. Stephenville also has seen some pretty good rainfall today. Not a whole lot more is in the forecast. That being said, parts of Labrador, mainly in the Straits and southeast, are going to see significant rainfall overnight into tomorrow morning as well. Looks like almost 25 mils in the forecast for the Goose Bay area and close to 40 for kind of the Lancelot Red Bay area, Forteau area as well. Lesser amounts as you get away from the Straits. Notice only 19 in the forecast for Port Hope Simpson and 20 mils in the forecast for the Cartwright area. Now, we take a look at future radar cloud cover. Again, what you'll notice is by midnight, we are still seeing that rain over most of Newfoundland, working into the lower North Shore of Quebec, into southeastern Labrador. At midnight, we're looking at heavy rain north of Corner Brook, approaching Grand Falls, Windsor, and approaching the metro area. Also going to be quite windy at that time as well. By tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, the rain has finally lifted north. Then we get into the kind of the second phase of this system, which is going to be a swath of very heavy snowfall from just west of Goose Bay into the Churchill Valley, and for the most part just east of Labrador West. Churchill Falls, this is a snowfall for you, going to be a very significant one tomorrow. Rates may be over 5 centimeters an hour for a good long while, and that snow will be heaviest in the morning, letting off somewhat in the afternoon, and then as we go into the evening, tapering off to flurries. Now, speaking of flurries, it does look like we may see some over western Newfoundland tomorrow during the second half of the day as cold air filters in behind our departing weather maker. Now, speaking of weather alerts, not a whole lot left in Labrador, minus the snowfall warning for the Churchill Valley and Churchill Falls. Why? Look at that swath. So nothing through tonight, not even a whole lot by 5, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, although by then the snow has started. Throughout the day tomorrow, the snow is going to pick up and accumulate rapidly in the Churchill Falls area. By midday, 19 centimeters in the forecast, and by evening, closing in on a foot, 30 centimeters. And notice how narrow that swath is. Goose Bay, not a whole lot in the forecast, and Lab West, not a whole lot in the forecast. And that's pretty well done with by Wednesday evening. On the island, I mentioned that wind threat, that's going to be highest overnight into the early morning hours of our Wednesday, but we're not looking at anything like we saw last week. Now, that being said, it's going to be breezy. So here we are, we go through the overnight, wind speeds by midnight picking up, St. Anthony gusting 89 at midnight, St. John 74, Bonavista 89, Grand Bank gusting 93 at that point. As we move into the 3-4 in the morning time frame, that's when it looks like St. John's, Bonavista, St. Anthony, you're going to see the highest wind speeds, gusting close to 100. By tomorrow morning, 5, 6 a.m., the highest speeds have moved offshore, and then we're seeing the wind speeds remain breezy, but not as windy as it's been so far this evening, and it's going to be as we get into the overnight. Something I'm watching is this area of low pressure that's going to bring the snow to Labrador tomorrow in the Churchill Falls area. It does look like we're going to see an area of fairly high wind speed on the southern and kind of eastern side of the low. I don't know if it's necessarily a sting jet, but the computer here is showing some gusts along the lower North Shore, closing in on about 100, 110 tomorrow. Now, the Straits of Labrador and the western side of the Northern Peninsula may miss this, but if that low is any further east, parts of the Straits and potentially the extreme western side of the Northern Peninsula, as you kind of go from the St. Barb area, around the St. Barb area, I should say, may see some winds peaking, it looks like early tomorrow morning. It looks like 4 or 5 in the morning. So something to kind of keep in mind as that low moves north. And once it does move north somewhat, the winds go up into the Mealy Mountains and then to the coast of Labrador with, again, those gusts 80 to 100. If you're trying to get to the coast of Labrador tomorrow, airwise, I'm not going to say it ain't going to happen, but my inclination as an aviation geek would kind of lean that way. Thursday looks like a better day, at least to start. All right, so for tonight, temperatures across the island are going to stay pretty mild, 3 to 6 degrees in Labrador, falling back to -7 in the west. Now remember, it's warm in Newfoundland tonight, right? We have this warm air surging northward. It's 10 degrees in Orlando as of 8/12. It's 7 degrees in St. John's, 1 in Labrador City, and it's 7 degrees in Charlotte and 1 degree in Pittsburgh. So the cold air is there, but it's currently off to our west. That comes back tomorrow. So tomorrow, 4 or 5 degrees early for western Newfoundland, probably close to 1 or 2 or 3 by evening as that rain mixes with wet snow. In the east, 8, 9 degrees tomorrow, going to be cooler to some extent as we go into Thursday. Now Thursday, another weather maker moves in, another round of rain and possibly snow. Here we are looking into Thursday now. Look at Thursday afternoon, 1 o'clock, rain redeveloping for southern eastern Newfoundland. So we went from a very dry weather pattern to one that's exceptionally damp. Now, as we get into the afternoon, there might be enough cold air around that we see wet snow in the higher terrain of interior and central Newfoundland by evening. But with temperatures flirting near or above freezing, I don't know if it's going to be the same setup as we had last week where it did snow in all these areas, but it certainly is a possibility. I'll watch it closely, but it looks like more snow working into Labrador as we go into Friday. We catch a break later Friday. Looks like a very similar system coming in for Saturday at this point. or later Friday, I should say, at this point. So something to kind of keep an eye on as we go into Friday and Saturday. Right now, Saturday looking pretty quiet across most of Newfoundland, while in Labrador, the weather remains a bit on the active side as we go into Friday and Saturday as well, with more snow potentially in the west. If you don't have my app, I post all sorts of info in there throughout the run of the day. You get alerts if there's rain coming. You get alerts if there's lightning, not that we're going to see any. And you get the weather alerts as well. And you can also find your forecast and my forecast right in one location. You can get it in the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Scan that QR code if you can't find it. Have a very good, today's Tuesday, Tuesday evening. My next update will be Wednesday morning. Have a good one.